everybody for taking the time out of your day to look at APS payments. So we're really the only true integrated solution for Sage 300 accounts receivable and credit card processing today. From this presentation, hopefully you should be able to walk away with a deeper understanding of credit card processing in general, and hopefully you're also motivated to use APS to save more money for your business and your budget. So you might be asking yourself why? Why payment processing, and why should we even think about moving away from our existing bank or processor? Payment processing is really, the cornerstone to all of our businesses these days. At the end of the day, we all need to get paid. More and more, we're seeing more merchants come to us at APS with the requirements to take credit cards if they don't already. And often the rates associated with credit card acceptance are just overlooked and thought of as just another cost of doing business. So at APS, we're changing that, and we have been for over 12 years now. We've grown significantly, and for the past 2 years, we've been recognized as one of America's fastest growing companies, and we now serve thousands of merchants from Miami to Vancouver, and have some merchants processing as little as $2,000 a month to as much as $20 million a month. So the great thing is that we've built a team that can really let you guys sit back and relax and just enjoy our customer service. We provide 24/7 customer support, and we provide immediate assistance, which means that there's absolutely no time on hold or having to push a number of those keypad buttons to just get somebody's attention. The real gold is in our fee structure. So often merchants get caught up in flat rates, which is an agreement between the processor and the merchant for a single rate across all card types. And that's regardless of the card type. So even if that card should call for a lower rate, such as some MasterCard or Visa business cards, you're being charged that flat rate across the board. Whereas with APS, we charge Interchange plus pricing, and I'll get into that a little bit later on. The most common pricing in the industry is known as tiered pricing, where processors bundle hundreds of different types of transactions into 3 different tiers. And these are referred to as fully qualified, mid-qualified, and non-qualified rates. The goal of most processors is to get their customers to look at the lowest rate, the fully qualified rate, and ignore the 2 other pricing tiers. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Merchants usually choose the lowest fully qualified rate, and because they're ignoring those 2 other pricing tiers, they're usually charged significantly higher rates there. And they can't really sit down and pinpoint exactly what card goes with what rate. This type of pricing often results in misdirection for you, the merchant, where you can't pinpoint exactly how much markup you're being charged on any given transaction. At APS, we bring to the table education. We want you, our merchants, to better understand the playing field and take back really a large amount of that lost profit. For APS, we only lead with Interchange plus pricing. Now, what is Interchange plus pricing? So it provides transparency on your merchant statement to show what the set credit card fee is per card brand. And this fee is set by Visa, MasterCard, and Amex and is non-negotiable. So that's the fee that everyone must pay. However, where you can save money is on the markup. At APS, we break out these fees so you know exactly how much us at APS are making off of every single transaction and how much the card brands are making. What this means is that you have really a true business partner in the credit card industry to guide you through the maze of everything that's a little bit tricky, foggy, or kind of confusing. And you also have a processor that will always provide a competitive rate that will always blow our competition out of the water. Here you can see an example of flat rate pricing. The example given shows that every transaction in which a card is swiped, the merchant is paying 2.75% to their payment processor. Additionally, every key transaction will cost that merchant 3.5% on those transactions. This also doesn't include fees associated with just maintaining the merchant account, which you can see at the bottom. The issue here is that you as the merchant are missing out on savings. Card brands have set rates for every card taken, And what that means is that if you swipe a Visa business card, even though that card would call for a significantly lower rate, you're still being charged a non-transparent markup. Tiered pricing is a little bit more complicated. As mentioned before, there are typically 3 different rate types associated with this processing structure. If you fall into this category, chances are you probably are getting a very good fully qualified rate for card types that kind of fall into that category. But on the other hand, there are usually a number of card types that fall into either the mid-qualified or non-qualified tiers. And what that means is that you as the merchant are going to be paying significantly higher rates for any card taken, which falls into any of those 2 bottom tiers. And that's not only confusing, but as you conduct day-to-day business, it also makes it very difficult to pinpoint the true cost and markup of accepting credit cards. At APS, we only offer Interchange Plus pricing. This is the most transparent pricing structure, and you as the merchant will be charged the true rate set for card types taken. So again, those are the rates set by Visa, MasterCard, and Amex, and those rates are non-negotiable. You will also be charged a markup, just like in every other pricing tier. However, the difference is that APS actually displays our markup for every single transaction on your merchant statement, so that you as the merchant always know exactly how much APS is making off of your day-to-day business. As mentioned before, there are a number of places that credit card processing rates and fees contribute to. At the top, you have card issuers. Second, you have card brands. And at the bottom, you have ISOs, which is the category that APS falls into. APS also offers Level 3 transaction processing to our US-based merchants. Level 3 transactions typically cost a merchant 0.5 to 1.5% less than a standard Level 1 transaction, amounting to huge savings for business-to-business companies. In addition, merchants receive detailed reporting that allows them to track transactions from beginning to settlement. Reporting can also be tailored with up to 60 different data points. And with our Sage 300 integration, we really provide that Level 3 processing automatically. So because of our integration to Sage and all of the information that's already stored within your Sage environment, we automatically pull that information and remit it back to Visa and MasterCard on your behalf, so that you guys will always qualify for that Level 3 processing discount when it's available. So in order to qualify for Level 3 processing, it's the merchant's responsibility to transmit a number of data fields to Visa and MasterCard to qualify for that lower rate. At APS, like I had mentioned, we leverage your Sage 300 data, and we are the only Sage 300 integrated credit card processor that provides this automation directly through Sage. So this is an example of the detail fields required on the right-hand side to be transmitted to Visa or MasterCard to qualify for those lower rates. If there is another processor out there who is offering Level 3 processing, just keep in mind that often you'll have to sit there and manually code every single one of those data points on the right in order to qualify for that rate. And that can be cumbersome. And with our integration to Sage, it really automates everything and makes everything a lot more efficient. Like I had mentioned, Level 3 transactions typically cost a merchant 0.5% to 1.5% less than a standard Level 1 transaction. So this is just kind of hits further home as to why Level 3 processing is great. And it really helps merchants to further their ability to save money and optimize their budgets. Switching gears a little bit, along with being a credit card processor, APS is also the gateway. So that's the service that actually authorizes the credit card and validates the information that's being provided back to the merchant. So what this means is even more savings for the merchant account. Now, instead of having to manage a processor and a separate gateway, now you have both of those things in one single organization. And as you can see, even in the gateway, APS is very competitive. We don't charge for things like setup fees, or daily batch fees. And our monthly gateway fee is also less than most of our competitors. This is an example of an APS merchant statement assessment. At the top, you can see the tiered structure I was talking about and the fees that they're currently paying their existing processor. In the middle, you can see the comparison to APS and the card brand fees, which are clearly stated. And at the bottom, we show the savings. In this case, we were able to save this particular business about $1,400 a month, or almost $17,000 a year. And that's 30% less than what they were paying previously. Most commonly, we see the following challenges amongst our merchants. So things like expensive software, setup, maintenance, support fees. Usually there's no level 3 processing, or if there is, manual coding. Usually 24-hour funding is kind of the norm in the industry. Oftentimes they're paying high Amex rates. PCI compliance fees, which can really be overcome. Support is also often automated, and it takes kind of a long time to reach a real person, and just generally confusing merchant statements. So on the right-hand side, you can see that APS doesn't charge for things like installation, setup, training, maintenance, or support, again, providing that 24/7 live support. We provide level 3 processing, 12-hour funding. So if you close out a batch at 8 p.m. East Coast time, that money will be in your account by 9 a.m. the next day. We're part of the Amex OptBlue program, which means that we process Amex in-house, providing significantly lower Amex rates. We also provide free PCI support, helping your business to become PCI compliant so that you don't have to pay any additional fees. We provide fully integrated EMV and chip functionality terminals, and we also are now rolling out our APS click-to-pay functionality for Sage 300, and that should be out by the end of this quarter. So if you'd like to discover exactly how much you can save by switching to APS, please reach out to your rep at Frontline or myself directly, and we would be happy to walk you through exactly what that cost savings would look like. What we would need are 2 of your most recent merchant statements, and we can do a cost comparison like we saw with that company that we saved $16,000 for, and we can walk through it and see exactly how much we can save you guys. And just to kind of incentivize it further, we also have an ongoing challenge. So if you do choose to provide 2 of your most recent merchant statements and allow us to go through that comparison, and if we can't still save you money, APS will provide you with $500, no questions asked, just for the consideration. So there's really no losing here. Okay, so that's my contact information. If anyone needs to reach out to me directly, I would encourage you, though, to reach out to your Frontline rep. We can go through the process that way. I'm just going to quickly jump into the product demo. So we're just going to run through a very easy and high-level overview of our integration to Sage. So on the left-hand column here, you can see that we've built a module that sits directly within your Sage environment. That module, it just shows how easily integrated we are. If we click on that, then we're taken to this landing screen. I like to kind of start in setup when I'm going through these demos, just to kind of show exactly how easy it is to configure this whole environment. As you can see here, there's only a few data points that need to be completed, and really our install and setup usually take between 30 minutes to an hour, so it's really simple and easy to get started with us. Again, our integration is completely free, so if you wanted to get started with us, we can have you up and running probably by the end of next week if you really wanted to. At the bottom here, we have added this field here, which is split AR batches by payment code, and that's really for reporting purposes. So if you wanted to see at the end of your day exactly how much you put through for Visa, Amex, and MasterCard separated, you could do that by leaving that box ticked. You can also untick it if you want, but I find that most merchants leave it ticked these days. At the bottom here, we built this field for level 3 processing, and this field specifically is unique to APS and just allows us to pull that data from your Sage environment and remit that information back to Visa and MasterCard so you guys can qualify for the cheaper business-to-business discount for level 3 processing. If we come out of here, we can just open APS customers. And as you can see here, all of our existing Sage 300 customers are already held within the system. So there's no real need to make any changes. Everything that you have currently within Sage will be pulled over. If we go and we open Ronald Black, for example, we can see that Ronald already has a credit card set up. But if we click on this magnifying glass, we can see that Ronald actually has 6 other credit cards set up. So what that means is for backend staff, they can easily go in and switch between any credit cards that would be required, let's say personal cards, different corporate cards for processing at any point. Everything is vaulted, and all you can see as a backend user is the last 4 digits of the card and the expiry date, okay? So if we come out of there, we can see that as a backend user, all you'll have permissions to are, again, those last 4 digits. You can see the credit card expiry date. They can change that if they want to. You can change the address if you need to. It will automatically populate the existing address on file for that customer. For example, if the card address was different than the company address, you can make that change as well. Zip code, that can be changed. Currency, APS handles multiple currencies. So if you guys do need, let's say, to process in Canadian dollars or Australian dollars or pounds, euros, just let us know and we can help you guys to set that up. Everything is based on the Sage user permission, so it's similar to any other module within Sage. So if you wanted to, let's say, lock down a user's ability to change the credit card expiry date or the currency or anything like that, we can lock it down as granularly as you need it to. I like to kind of show add a new card as well, because what we've done is we've even built in this email feature. So you can add an email per card, and once a transaction is created against that card, an email will actually be sent to that user letting them know that a transaction is being created. Okay, so we'll just come out of there and we'll go through a typical order entry scenario. So this is the most common way to use the APS integration, but it's not the only way. Everything is kind of similar in terms of the nuts and bolts of the system, and I'll point out to you exactly what that means as we go through this. So for an order entry scenario, if you are a user who's familiar with Sage Order Entry, you'll know that this screen is exactly the same as what you work in day to day. The only difference is that we've built this APS credit card payments button down here at the bottom, which allows you to process credit cards. So we'll just go in and we will choose Ronald Black as an example. And let's say Ronald is opening up a new office and he needs to order 20 new desk lamps. We'll just fill that in and we will post. We're not going to print because this is a demo. And once we hit post, notice that this APS credit card payments button lights up. Now this is really where the nuts and bolts of the system come into play. So for example, if you wanted to process batches manually, or if you had any invoices set up in accounts receivable that you wanted to process a singular transaction with, wherever you see this APS credit card payments button, this is the screen that will pop up when you click on it. This screen allows you to go and switch between any of those credit cards you already have on file for that client. You can add a new credit card on the fly if you need to, update a new card, delete a card if you need to. If that user has the Sage user permissions, you can change the transaction amounts, make that sale, or pre-authorize that transaction. So for this example, we're just going to pre-authorize the transaction. And when we click on that button, what's happening is all of that information around the credit card is being sent through our vault system and our gateway, and everything's just being authorized and validated. So here you can see that we have this APS authorization is approved dialog, but for example, if something was kind of off, maybe if the zip code was off, the expiry date was off on the credit card, it would come back and it would provide an error and allow you, the user, to go back and make the required changes so that you can run that transaction again. Okay, so we'll just click OK here. And down here at the bottom, you can see the transaction history. So you can see that we have the pre-authorization, and this transaction history will stay with this transaction for the life of it. So we're just going to close this out. We're going to ship, just to kind of close out this transaction, and we're going to post. We're not going to print. And then we're going to close. So just to complete a pre-authorized transaction, we would have to go into this invoice entry screen. Just open it up. And once it's open, we just choose our client, and then we would choose that shipping number. So here at the bottom, you can see that this is today's date, March 6th. So here we have a transaction March 6th. That's the one I just created. We'll open that up, and you can see those fluorescent desk lamps. Just to complete the transaction, once you kind of populate that shipment, you can notice that this APS credit card payment button has lit up again. Just click on that button. There you have the transaction history. You can switch between cards if you need to, change the transaction amount if you're able to. You can just make that sale, or you can void out that transaction if you need to. So for this, we're just going to make that sale. Just click yes. And here you can see that that order entry invoice is being posted, and the sale has been updated in the transaction history, and that sale's completed. There's really nothing else to do there. So we can just close out, and that's really it. It's a super simple platform to use within Sage. For example, if you needed to process batches, you can do that within this screen. And it's just super easy to use. We also have our own gateway. So if you guys are familiar with processing transactions through a web gateway, we also have that. And like I had mentioned before, we're also rolling out Sage 300 Click to Pay, which will allow you to have a portal for your clients to go into, see the invoices that have been issued to them, and they can pay those invoices directly through that portal. And that's a really powerful tool as well that we're just rolling out, because it's not something that is available within the Sage 300 community until now. So if there's any questions, any interest, please feel free to reach out to myself or your frontline team members, and we'd be happy to kind of walk you through exactly what we can do. Thank you guys for taking the time.